Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuitboo Horror Reviews. I'm here with a review of a 1974 horror film from director Michael Findlay, who is probably most well known for directing the 1971 Manson family-inspired exploitation film The Slaughter, which didn't really, become famous until 1975 when the film was used as the majority of the footage to the film Snuff, a film that, if you couldn't guess by the title, the film pretty much launched the urban legend of snuff films into the mainstream, with the film claiming to be an actual snuff film. This movie is also written by Ed Adlam, who is probably most well known for writing and directing Invasion of the Blood Farmers from 1971, which is a pretty entertaining little exploitation film from the early 70s. Very low budget film. And I'm talking about the director Michael Findlay, his Yeti film Shriek of the Mutilated. I really like that title. The alternate titles for this movie were Mutilated and Shriek of the Snow Beast, which that was the title for the film when I guess it started to air on TV in like the mid '80s. I kind of like Shriek of the Snow Beast as well. Either way, this movie has to do with a group of college students, and one of their professors is like fucking crazy, and he believes that Yetis exist. And he claims that the reason nobody's ever gotten an actual picture of a Yeti is because they have magic of powers and they can teleport, which is kind of hilarious, honestly. And that's literally how the film opens, with him saying, Yetis do exist, guys, I'm being serious. The only reason there's no pictures is because they can disappear before your very eyes. That's how this movie fucking opens. Oh, God. But either way, a bunch of college students go onto this forested island in search of a Yeti, and they start getting picked off one by one by a Yeti. It's yeah, this is something. The film plays kind of like a slasher film for the most part, with it's kind of like the video nasty film Night of the Demon, which is a slasher film with Bigfoot as the killer, basically. And there's a scene in that movie where Bigfoot rips a biker's dick off. That's a pretty great scene, honestly. But yeah, this movie's similar to Night of the Demon from 1980, except it's just as cheaply made, but it's missing the gore of Night of the Demon. Although this film does have a couple bloody moments in it, definitely. This film is cheap as all hell, like shot on a very, very low budget. The picture quality on every version I could find online is pretty bad for the most part. There are some scenes in the dark where you can't see anything at all. There are scenes that are like flashbacks of a guy being attacked by a Yeti, where the fucking exposure is like turned up, like the exposure on the film is so fucking high. It's pretty much just a blindingly white screen. For a second I thought I was watching fucking Begotten because of how much of how much of just like, a sensory deprivation feeling this was giving me. And Begotten's a great movie, mind you. The acting in this movie is really pathetic and pretty laughable for the most part. There's some overacting in the film towards the beginning at a party scene where this guy is, like I said, flashback of being attacked by a Yeti. The guy's overacting in the scene kind of reminds me of the guy from Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Feast, who sees his girlfriend get murdered, and he's just like overacting, and he's really fucking hamming it up in that scene. He kind of reminded me of that guy from Blood Feast. Really, this movie is bad. like really fucking bad in almost every way from a serious critical standpoint. This movie is a goddamn trash fire, but as a piece of cheap, low budget exploitation cinema, it's got some elements that make it somewhat worthwhile. The pacing in the film is relatively decent. If you somehow find yourself actually getting into the film, that is. I should also mention that this movie does, even though it does have decent pacing, there are some slow moments in the film. Um, but there's also some really weird, random shit thrown into the film, such as a character named Laughing Crow, who's supposed to be a Native American, but he's played by like this very obviously like 100% white guy, who in the role just stands around and does a really weird scowling face and grunts the entire time. Um, and the thing is, you might think, oh well, okay, maybe he like doesn't speak English, but there's a point in the film where he does actually speak English very clearly. So why did he grunt the entire time? Just so the scene where he spoke English would be um, more of a shock? Maybe, considering the placement of that scene, but I'm not going to get to that because that is a spoiler. There's random bits of comedy thrown into the film. It's a pretty bizarre movie, honestly, with how absurd and ridiculous and stupid it gets as it goes along, up till the last act, and the last act is it gets pretty wild, to be completely honest. Um, shit. Fuck. I am. Let me obviously look at this script I have off screen because I'm I can't do it. Um. Yeah, as stated, film has some slow moments, and I think this movie would probably work best as a background noise kind of movie. Um, not that this is like the absolute worst thing I've ever seen. This isn't like on the level of Manos: The Hands of Fate in terms of bad moviness, but it's still pretty bad. And I think if the average person watched this movie, they would be really, really fucking mad and kind of pissed off that they wasted their time on this movie. I'm not going to try to go into too much detail repeating the same things I've said about the last 50 fucking trash films I've seen. So let me just say right now, if you're the average person, and you want a good Yeti and or Bigfoot movie, stick to Snow Beast, stick to Night of the Demon, Legend of Boggy Creek, Love in the Time of Monsters. Stick to those movies, because even some of those are pretty bad, but at least they're better quality than this. That being said, if you really enjoy fucking trash cinema, this movie might be worth a watch, just for a few of the moments of bizarreness, and as well as this twist that happens in the film, which I have to mention. There's a major twist in the film, like a major reveal in the last act that is very obvious by the way that the film is structured, that it was supposed to be a surprise. Yet on almost every single poster or VHS cover art, almost like every single piece of promotional material I've seen for this movie, it literally plasters the spoiler on it as the tagline, and that really ruins it, because I feel like if I would have watched this expecting a Yeti movie, I probably and then if I would have watched this and gotten to the twist, I think I would have liked this movie more if I didn't know ahead of time, just because I looked at the fucking poster. Also, the first death scene in the movie doesn't even involve the Yeti. It's a murder-suicide, I guess. Or maybe it's a murder. Maybe it's a fucking revenge murder, suicide murder. I don't know how to describe it, but it's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen, and there's no point to the scene even existing, honestly. It's just kind of in the movie. Um, on the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 makes it like Nosferatu, 10 makes it like Peter Jackson's Brain Dead. Shriek of the Mutilated is probably a 2, 3 maybe. Like, this is pretty low on the gore. There's like a severed limb here. There's a bit of blood there. There's a scene where they use people's corpses as bait to lure out the Yeti, which that's kind of macabre, and I guess you could say kind of disturbing in a sense. But really, this movie is fairly tame. This movie ain't no Snow Beast, most definitely. Snow Beast is probably the only fucking Yeti Bigfoot movie out there that I would say is of some level of quality. I haven't seen The Legend of Boggy Creek yet, so but still, this is one of the only ones that I would say that is one of the only ones I would say is of some level of quality and is a pretty interesting movie, and this is not that. That being said, this could possibly be worth a look if you are into bad movies, if that's your thing. The twist to the film is pretty ambitious, honestly, considering the budget and considering what they were working with in terms of materials, or in terms of like kind of sets, props, and writing. It was a pretty ambitious twist, and I will give them all the credit in the world for that. And the reveal of it is pretty funny in a kind of unintentionally humorous and an absurd way. The very ending, like literally right before the credits start rolling, is pretty funny too. In all honesty, it's not perfect. It's not even good. But if you're a fan of Michael Findlay's work, if you liked Snuff or The Slaughter, or if you like Invasion of the Blood Farmers, I would definitely say, or if you're a fan of Ed Adams' work, Invasion of the Blood Farmers, obviously, this is definitely worth a look as well. My rating for this one's probably gonna have to be a 2, maybe a 2.5 out of 5. It's a pretty low rating for a movie that I still kind of enjoyed, but it's not anything amazing. I really don't think I'll ever watch it again. Maybe as a background noise movie when I'm, working on a project or something. But as of now, I can't see myself rewatching this movie. Anyway, guys, this is Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.